Aloha and welcome to Outside Hawaii. I'm Jen Boniza, your host. On today's show, we spend time on the windward and leeward sides of two different Hawaiian islands. On the first two parts of the show, we spend time with some visionary folks on Oahu at Kualoa Ranch. This special place has been privately owned and managed since Hawaii was ruled by royalty. The ranch has survived many cultural, economic, political, and global changes. They attribute their resiliency and tenacity to the essence of this very special place. In Hawaii and across the world, there are a subset of ranchers and farmers that share a common vision, and that is to continue exploring historic and progressive techniques that will maintain a future for these family-type properties. The last two segments of today's show are from Hawaii Island in the Kaupulehu Ahupua'a. Ahupua'a is a land division devised by Hawaii's first people. Many of the linear residents and the relatively new to Hawaii home and resort owners have pledged to protect the cultural and natural resources of Kaupulehu. Local government is also involved in the management of this area. The invasives dive that was put on here is one facet of a broad commitment to malama and steward the ocean resources of Kaupulehu. Please stay with us. When we come back from the break, we'll visit Kualoa Ranch. Mahalo.
Jen Boniza's wardrobe is provided by Missing Polynesia. The Marshall Islands Resort is the premier hotel in the Republic of the Marshall Islands. It's the gathering place for visitors, locals, and expats. Scuba dive Majuro Lagoon, dine in Enra Restaurant, and explore these beautiful islands from the Marshall Islands Resort.
What started out as a water quality project has since turned into another Kualoa Ranch success story.
On most of the main islands, there are several large, primarily family-owned properties that were acquired while Hawaii was ruled by the royalty of our first people. The family ownership of some of these properties has never changed, and as near as we can tell, since the arrival of the first people, some form or forms of agriculture have always been practiced on these lands. The cultivation of these Pacific oysters are one example of farming here at Kualoa Ranch. On Oahu, an island that's roughly 600 square miles with 1 million people, open land is becoming scarcer. About 80% of the people on Oahu live on the Honolulu side of the island. Kualoa Ranch is located in one of the most beautiful and culturally significant areas in all of Hawaii. This part of Oahu resembles Tahiti Nui and many of the Society Islands in French Polynesia. Ikaika Velez, Kaipo Kubota, and Kui McCarty are the Kualoa Ranch Pacific Oyster Operation Stewards. Oyster cultivation has been around since the Roman Empire. Many studies have indicated that flavor and texture can be attributed to the diversity of different environmental factors like fresh and saltwater sources, plus the nutrients oysters feed on. We talk story with Taylor Kellerman. He's the ranch's Director of Diversified Ag and Land Stewardship.
I think when you have the resources, whether it be water, land, the ability to produce food like we do here at Kulo Ranch, we take that seriously. And when I think of food sustainability, I think of the ability to feed your community, to feed the people around you. We have a tremendous amount of support, and we have the resources to do it, and it's just kind of putting your mind to it and getting it going.
Agriculture in Hawaii has moved away from large monocrops like sugarcane or pineapple. Today, a new generation of farmers are trying their best to shrink the dependence on containerized shipments of food from the mainland. Places like Kualoa Ranch, where the infrastructure and technology of Hawaii's first people is largely intact, are becoming more recognized and appreciated as partial solutions to Hawaii's food security challenges. Moli'i Fish Pond, where Ikaika and Kaipo are working in, is an example of one tool Hawaii's first people used. The level of technology Hawaiian fish ponds represented was unique to the Pacific and the world.
So what we're raising are the oysters. We got them in the cages and the baskets, and we're growing them up like a grow out stage, a grow out process. So we purchase babies, put them in baskets, grow them in the pond, and then those are cleaned and then sold to restaurants. We're using them to clean the water quality in the fish pond, and so we've seen a good impact in the fish pond with the oysters being there, and so we've continued to do oyster production here for restaurant commercial sale.
Today, a relatively new movement to restore long-neglected fish ponds has resulted in dozens of grassroots efforts. You might say the restoration and then the farming of fish ponds and kalo fields, or loi, are the two poster children of the organizations promoting food security solutions through cultural outreach, education, and science.
So every week, we got to take the oysters out of the fish pond, we hose them off and dry them out. This process we do as a treatment to keep the shells from getting infected with sponges, seaweed, and polydora worms. And so that's a weekly treatment that we do with the oysters upon sorting through them. So as the oysters are growing, we get them at a really small size. And as they grow, we sort through the bigger ones, move up into different liners. And then once they are large enough to be sold, we'll wash them off and count them. And we put them in a depuration tank for 48 hours. And then we pack them, and then they're sent off to the retail up at Kualoa or to the restaurants that have ordered oysters from us.
Wait, isn't that? Yeah? Let's go take a picture, hurry.
If you don't like it, what makes you think they do? Please keep your distance and respect our marine wildlife.
I dwell in the realm of Kanaloa. This has been my native home for millions of years, but now my future is in jeopardy. Our kupuna ku'ulakai taught us the skills to be good fishermen, the value of a kapu system, and most importantly, to share. We are one. What happens to me happens to all of us. He Hawaii ka ko. We are Hawaii.
Diversification is a word used often in global conversations. The first people of Hawaii also thought globally. They would not have reached these islands if they did not.
The Pacific oysters raised in the Moli'i fish ponds at Kualoa Ranch are being served to eager diners at several eateries in Honolulu. The Moku Kitchen in Kaka'ako, a busy and popular new restaurant, is a Pacific Rim cuisine-influenced establishment that attracts talented chefs and customers who support the protection of Earth's environment, buy from local farmers, and understand Hawaii's food security challenges. Sous chef Tish Koyanagi graciously agreed to talk story with us.
Usually you have to outsource them somewhere from the East Coast. You have to fly them here, which causes, a huge carbon footprint on the environment. Having them here locally sourced allows us to enjoy such a great product with little impact on the environment. It's extremely important to us, not only as a restaurant, but I think every person that works here, because they understand how important it is to, support local, buy local, and support not just our farmers, but our economy and our community as a whole. Our theme of our restaurant is upcountry downtown. We really try to bring the upcountry feel down to the urban life here in town.
There was a time in Hawaii when the legacy of Hawaii's first people was literally in danger of disappearing. 20 years ago, there were about 30 native-born speakers left, and the physical infrastructure of our first people was largely neglected.
Our fish pond has the distinction of being the longest running productive fish pond on the island of Oahu. It's over 800 years old, and what's really neat about it is that it never did go out of production. It's always been in perpetuation, and we continue to utilize that for fish production as well today. But a few years ago, actually the initial point of introducing oysters was to better water quality. One oyster can filter quite a few gallons of water individually per day.
Hawaii's first people prioritized the stewardship of their freshwater sources. The basic structure of their society reflects that.
Kualoa Ranch is comprised of 3 aupua, and as we know, aupua is really a land division that is based off of agriculture. Your ocean shoreline portion, your farming portion, and your water source. When you think of the fact that we manage this place using that same mentality, when you think about we have conservation departments who are responsible for maintaining watershed, we're farming in the lowlands, and we even do our aquaculture along the shoreline. Really, it's a modern day version of that. We have our fish pond, which we still utilize in the ways of the ancient peoples, but then at the same time, we do our oysters for water quality as well as consumption. So the cultural connection is pretty vast when you think about the fact that we've taken a successful, known to work system that the ancient Hawaiians put forth, and we've just tried to carry it into the next generation.
Go closer.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo! I gotta get another one. Who's gonna post it on Instagram? I want to go ride it.
If you don't like it, what makes you think they do? Please keep your distance and respect our marine wildlife.
It's a fun field! Woo!
Alien insect pests. They can hide in fruit, vegetables, flowers, and soil. These pests cost everyone money in diseased crops and higher prices. How do they get here? When we fly home to Hawaii, we sometimes forget that all fruits and plants must be inspected for alien insects and diseases.
We better tell them about these.
Most items are returned after inspection, but declaration starts with you. Help stop the silent invasion. Don't pack a pest.
I am a veteran.
I'm a veteran.
I served in Iraq.
I served in Afghanistan.
I'm alive today because of my translator.
My translator chose
to fight for our country.
My translator is as much of a veteran as I am.
As I am.
As I am.
My translator is a hero.
Our nation made a promise
to care for those who cared for us.
Thousands of our wartime allies
remain left behind.
We need your help.
We need your help.
Together, We'll keep America's promise to ensure no one is left behind.
Some folks say that Hawaii Island is the most dynamic of the Hawaiian archipelago. The fact that the island is still physically growing may have something to do with it.
Not long after sunrise on a typical Kona morning, about a dozen Hawaii Island men left Honokohau Harbor. They were heading to a spot just north of the Kaupulehu Marine Reserve, which is located in the Ahupua'a of Kaupulehu. They planned on freediving the coastline just beyond the reserve's northern boundary. They'll be observing the nearshore underwater environment and spearing invasive fish species. Normally, it takes about 45 minutes to reach the reserve. It took about 20 in this yellowfin with Captain Mike Nakachi at the helm. Hualalai is one of 3 volcanoes that create the largest li in the Hawaiian Islands. The Marine Reserve and the Kaupulehu Ahupua'a are on the northern flank of Hualalai and about 10 miles outside of Keauhole, the northernmost leeward point. Hualalai and much of Hawaii Island still have large areas where native forests have a predominance of endemic plants and trees. Sadly, the further down the slopes of Hualalai you go, the percentage of endemic trees declines. One grassroots movement to malama the remnants of our dryland forest started a couple of generations ago. This movement and others have led to official protection and restoration in many areas of Hawaii Island. The Kona coast has plenty of mana and beauty. No surprise that it has become a highly desired destination. Dr. Natalie Kurashima, an ethnobotanist, described the reaction of the community of Kaupulehu to changes in their nearshore marine environment.
I think being Hawaiian and having culture to me is knowing your resource well enough to be able to sustainably interact with it. And that's what is going on at Kalaimano. That's what's going on this whole Ahupua'a of Ku'upulahu. Basically, this community has been working has known their resources so well in the past, and is working with scientists, working with other community members, working with other organizations, working with the landowners, working with the developer to know their resource better and then be able to sustainably interact with it. And in this case, at this marine reserve, the way to interact with it sustainably was to create a 10-year marine closure. And that's not the answer for every place, but for here, that's what the community thought was the right thing. And the mana'o behind it was we closed down this area for 10 years, but we still interact with it through things like this, like a roi or an invasive species roundup. And we still learn from it by doing our science, by looking at ha'uke and opihi, by still looking at the fish. And then after 10 years when that's lifted, our children can continue to sustainably interact with this place into the future forever. So that's what I think is going on here.
This community's goal of managing and restoring their resources is similar to other groups in Hawaii. However, Kaupulehu has resident private home and resort owners that have global profiles. They're working together with the descendants of this Ahupua'a and others to malama Kaupulehu.
I am a lineal descendant of ancestors who were born and raised right at Kahuwai Kaupulehu. The last person to have been born in Kahuwai Bay area, which is now the site of the Kona Village Resort, was my father, Robert Lopaka Keakealani. He was born in October 24th, 1916, right at Kahuwai Bay, home of the Kona Village Resort. His mother, Grandma Keola, she was also born there at Kahuwai Bay. And we have grandpa, grandmas, that's right next to this Ahupua'a. of Kaupulehu, known as Pu'uawa. The beach sites there are Kiholo. That's where my grandparents on my father's side, father's father, they were born and they're buried there. Again, you know, in a nutshell, this is where my koko is. My father, my grandmother, great ancestors go down to, you know, Manuhoa. This was during the time of Kamehameha. There were uncles, half-brothers to Kamehameha's uncles who ruled this area. They were the Ali'inui, Kame'eamoku, Kamanawa, the twin chiefs, uncles to Kamehameha the Great. Maitutu, Manuhoa were half-brothers to these twins. Different fathers, same mother. That's how I connect here.
Hey! Look over here! Hey! Over here! Woo! Oh, it's looking! Take a picture!
Go closer! Go closer!
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Woo! I gotta get another one. Who's gonna post it on Instagram?
Ride it. It's moving, right?
I want to go ride it.
If you don't like it, what makes you think they do? Please keep your distance and respect our marine wildlife.
It's a monsoon! Woo!
Gather food, gather knowledge, gather here. Makeke Kapolei, a farmers and green market, supports local agriculture by providing access to the area's freshest local produce, meats, and dairy, and making healthy eating affordable by accepting EBT. Makeke also provides locally made green products, culturally tailored demonstrations, and activities for the kids. Join us at Makeke Kapolei every Thursday, 3 to 6:30 p.m. Kapolei High School.
Adaptation to the physical elements of this most isolated island chain was essential for the survival and long-term sustainability of Hawaii's first people.
The Kona Coast has long been known for its world-class deep-sea fishing and scuba diving. In recent years, a new player has made their presence known. The tools, and some might say toys, of globally influential Kona property owners have changed the dynamic of Honokohau Harbor.
Again, thank everyone for coming, but the main thing is the power of our observation by Nalu, you jumping in the water and taking a look. Besides going for the invasive species, see what's happening on the northern boundary, see if you're seeing recruitment, see if you're seeing spillover that might have came across Kalaimano. Again, we're targeting primarily the invasive species, so if you see the big kumu or the big moana kali that swims in front of you and you're like, ooh, unfortunately we could have to refrain. So that was the one thing, we just will check it out, take a look, because even though we are in an open boundary, I think that Auntie them really wanted us to really focus on the invasive species.
But we'd like to do it some more, especially getting inside of Kaupulehu, seeing what's happening in that area, and doing something about invasive fish in those waters. And that's all dependent on today going safely, going well. We got a really solid group here, so you guys know your stuff in the water, but take that extra time to check in on each other, please. And one float per two-person team. Teams of 2 is what we're gonna shoot for today. Let's see, we got the hand signals gone over already. Diver recall, 1 up, 1 down. You know, the basics of free diving, but let's just adhere to those really carefully, and then consider that we're in kind of a remote area. So it wasn't for Mananui Loa, Mike, and Kaikea, there would be much higher stakes, but it's still pretty high stakes today because we're, 30 minutes from help at least. So thanks for diving safe and for looking out for each other.
The yellowfin boat that Mike Nakachi transported the divers to this location with was generously made available by a hui, or partnership, of Kukio homeowners. The owners like these divers are aware of the borderline conditions of the Kaupulehu Ahupua'a, and they want to help. One of the species of invasive fish the divers are targeting is called roy. Introduced in the 1950s when less environmental scrutiny was applied, the roy and several other invasives have thrived and, in the opinion of many, changed the face of our nearshore waters. Lifetime residents like Reggie Lee and Vern Yamanaka have dedicated much of their time to applying the concept of malama to the ahupua'a of Kaupulehu.
More than anything else, I think when we decided to work on these lands, we wanted to do it the right way. So we talked to the Kikialanis, Leinala's father. We talked to a lot of other families of the land. We have what's called the Hualalai Foundation, where property owners here kick into a fund to preserve cultural issues, to try to carry on the mo'olelo of the land, the history of the land, and also, like what we're trying to do right now, preserve the resources of the Aupua.
Kikaulike Tomich, the diver seen here, is a lineal descendant of Kaupulehu. He has the blood of Hawaii's first people coursing through his veins, and he is walking the talk and actively applying the concept of malama to his Ahupua'a and Hawaii Island. Kikaulike is living in the lifestyle of a new generation of conservation-minded young professionals. He was probably influenced by the passion of his parents and kupuna, who have spent much of their lives preserving what is left of Hawaii's natural resources. Kikaulike's day job is the restoration and preservation of Hawaii's last remaining dry land plant species and forests. Auntie Lei is one of the kupuna and mentors that have placed great faith in Kikaulike's generation. In her words, she now sees the light at the end of the tunnel. Her education and cultural center is the embodiment of her philosophy and the concept of malama. About 50 roy and other invasive fish species were removed during this 4-hour dive. Dr. Tim Grabowski of UH Hilo and volunteers collected data from the roy. He spent years in Iceland studying cod and other species. One technique he used there was removing otoliths from the fish, which he used to determine age and life histories. Grabowski also hopes to do ciguatera testing on Hawaii's reefs. We hope to stay in touch with him and follow his work.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Mahalo nui to Taylor Kellerman and the Kualoa Ranch Oyster Team. Special mahalo to Auntie Lei and the Kalai Mano Interpretive Center. Aloha, ahui ho, malama Hawaii.